Made it. Talk to me. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Welcome. Hey, let's open with a listener call.
Exciting.
Hey, David, Chaz, Dylan up in Northern California. Been listening for a good couple years now. Of all the inanity that I've been forced to listen to, yesterday's parallel between kids swearing and the indignity of adult males wearing shorts in public just takes the cake. That was remarkable. Yeah. Not only did we go from it being undignified to it being unenlightened. So, well done. Well done. I mean, it's borderline insane. Not only that, for a surf podcast, you've been able to paint at least half your listenership with the moniker of being undignified. So that's pretty sweet. So well played, guys. All right.
What do you say, Chaz?
Well played is right. The entire Middle East can't be wrong, Dave. Take those shorts off. Be a man. Put pants on.
Hard to argue with the entire Middle East. I would go a step further and even say, we're talking about enlightened, right? So I've never seen a Buddhist monk wearing shorts.
No, of course not. They have robes. Wear a robe, Dave.
Can they all be wrong? I think it was Dylan.
Oh, sorry.
I fully stand by it. It's not enlightened at all. He said painting half our listenership as undignified that's one way to put it. Another way to put it is that it's a gentle, indirect nudge towards restoring their dignity. We're not shaming them. We're just reminding them. And
they're men.
Yeah.
Put your pins away. Put your pins away. Those legs are for little boys and Daisy Duke. They're not for you.
Let's go straight to the robe. Forget about shorts. Go straight to the robe.
I'm all completely 100% barrel on a Lebowski robe. Like if
bathrobe.
Yeah, if Dylan wanted to wear a bathrobe around, I would even grant Dylan his shorts with the bathrobe, right? Like Lebowski looked good in his shorts and bathrobe. That's fine. If you want to wear shorts, wear a bathrobe.
Now,
I will grant that caveat.
I had a listener submitted barrel or nah, but we'll just include it in this segment instead. This weekend at the Boardroom show, Sam George was prancing around in capris.
Were they actual capris?
Yeah.
You know me, David Lee Scales. You've known me for a while. And you know that I perpetually roll my pants up to capri level. To buy a pair of capris, Sam George, hate to say it, should walk himself to his nearest humane society and put himself down.
Wow.
Yep. A man buying capris. Like, were they rolled or were they capris?
They were cut at calf length.
That's an indignity too much. Sam George, I mean, my goodness.
I did not anticipate this.
Really? You thought I would be barrel on the capri?
For sure. I even told the listener who said it to me, I'm like, I'll ask him, but I guarantee I know where this goes. And he goes, yeah, me too. So we thought you were totally barrel on capri.
No. I'm still, in all of my here's and there's, I am still care about fashion. And capris on man are no and no. Roll your pants up all day. Roll them floodwaters, high waters. Also, if you need to, grab a pair of vintage gotcha jams, right? Like a pair of gotcha jams that hang well below the knee, but it's still a short, is even better. Pair it with a bathrobe, you're good to go. Capris, there's no time in any man's life when he should don a pair of capris.
And definitely not shorts.
No.
Unenlightened.
With a robe.
Undignified.
Yep.
I got called out when I was setting up the Boardroom show on Friday, our booths. I was wearing shorts. Obviously, it was hot and I'm doing the physical labor, and a couple of different people walked up and they're just like, "What the heck, dude?"
Yeah. Did you say I'm sorry? Did you apologize?
No, heck no. I was like, first of all, if you take to heart a lot of what we say, you're going to be wildly disappointed. not only with us, but in life in general. So don't take it too seriously. But
I mean, I'll give, though, you were doing physical labor. I'll give all kinds of, like, when you're on the construction job site, and you probably shouldn't be wearing shorts there, I suppose, but there's times and places where shorts are the appropriate workwear, right? Like
yeah,
Steve Irwin wore shorts all the time out there doing his work. There's a time and place for shorts as workwear, just not leisure wear. Let's
yeah,
be honest with that.
wrestling alligators will give it to you. And honestly,
Professor.
those should be zip offs. They probably should have started as safari pants, but then once you're going to wrestle the alligator, then you zip them off and
Zip 'em
go to
off.
battle.
Have you seen the zip offs that also have a capri zip off version?
No.
Yeah, there's a pair of zip off pants that you could zip them off to capri, and then you can zip them off to shorts. Sam George,
Wow.
you get some of those.
You really, by the way, Sam George putting himself down, it would actually be a crime against humanity because you can't put down a good head of hair like that. He has one of the all-time great heads of hair, and it would be a shame to see that go to waste.
So I saw a picture, I think, that had tagged Sam George at the boardroom show, but it did not look like Sam George, so I thought they were joking. It was just a silver fox. Did Sam George cut off the mullet? Does he have now like a sort of slick, age-appropriate do?
It's not a proper mullet, but he still has hair in the back. It's not like a hip cut that's tight in the back.
Okay, good. So I think
It's a
somebody
classic
misidentified.
Yeah, I'd say so too. It's a classic Sam George. I've got
Like he still looked like Sam George.
for 100%. Yeah, he's still
Do you think-
rocking the exact same Sam George he always has.
Now that Sam George and Nia Peoples are no longer an item, which, by the way, I know we've discussed before on the show, but I would put Sam George and Nia Peoples up there as one of the greatest surf couples in history.
Agreed.
Name me, like, we got stinking Freestone and Blanchard way up there, right? We have, who's another one?
It's funny. I just did this list recently, a month or two ago, and now I can't remember any of them.
We've got
Gabby Reese and Laird.
Yeah, but Gabby Reese was never a surfer. Like
Maddie,
to be truly on the list, I feel you both have to be surf or surf adjacent. Where I guess Gabby Reese could be surf adjacent because she was beach volleyball, but like Nia Peoples playing the love interest on North Shore and Sam George is just like, I'd put him at number one.
That's
Imagine you're Sam George and you were the number one surf couple in history, and you break up.
Well, that head of hair, he could base his career on it. He could base the marriage on it, but it wasn't a good enough head of hair to last a lifetime.
I don't know that Sam George is single or not right now, but did he look like he was prowling at the board show?
I wouldn't say he was prowling. He was strictly business.
In the front, but not in the back.
Exactly. Party in the back. I'm dying to know what happened to Long Tom.
Oh, he just got Swellnut offered him a full-time gig. I think Beach Grit was actually paying him, from what I understand, not much less than Swellnut offered, but Swellnut's was just, a official full-time gig, which I would imagine comes with, whatever insurance kind of things that happen in Australia.
Got it. Congratulations.
Congrats to Long Tom. Huge congrats to him.
Beach Grit rider, longtime Beach Grit rider, covered all the contests. Sad to see him go, but at least it's for a good reason. Gainful employment.
It's as he wrote in his farewell, all other Beach Grit riders have either left in a coffin or under a hail of bad feels. And he is going out on his own terms. So good on him.
Good on him. Good job. Isn't he driving a bus? Is he no longer driving a bus?
No. I think he is officially a full-time surf rider now.
So he was doing Beach Grit while he was driving still.
No, I think that I actually think the bus gig ended a while ago. I think he was only doing beach. I mean, I don't know what else he was doing, but I don't think he was driving a bus. But I think now he is officially a full-time surf rider.
Awesome. That's great news. Congrats. Sad to see him go, but congrats. Did you have we're going to get into the US Open. We're going to get into literal surf photographer millionaires. We're going to get into Hollister opening. Before we do any of that, did you want to comment on the boardroom show? Did you meet any fans?
I did. I met so many wonderful people. I absolutely, every time it goes, I mean, I was so happy to, I guess it's only my second time that I've ever been there, but so happy to have been there again. It's like, it's a show that makes sense, right? Like what's the one we went to in Florida? The
Surf Expo.
Surf Expo, right? Like a, excuse me, surf brand or surf clothing stuff, that's fine too. You know, it's all surf tchotchkes is all good, but surf boards, that's what matters, right? And walking around and seeing these boards and seeing people shape. I loved, actually, my favorite part was, besides meeting people, was seeing people in the stands watching, like intently watching shaper shape, glassers glass, right? Like really picking up trade tips. Like the fact that those guys are doing it. So for those who don't know or haven't been at the boardroom show, they have a kind of plexiglass cubes where, is there just two? Is it the like glassing one and the shaping one?
There's two shaping ones, and then there's a glassing demonstration also.
Okay, so two shaping cubes and a glassing demonstration where shapers get in there and shape boards, and then in the glassing one, glassers are doing their thing. And people are like intently in the bleachers, like there's stadium kind of bleachers in front of them, intently watching, which makes me so happy of just on all sides, right? The fact that the glassers and shapers are clearly, they have secrets that, you know, they're probably not throwing it all out there, but the fact that they're confident enough where, hey, you know, come learn from me. Watch, I'm going to show you, this is what I've learned as a craftsman. I'm not going to be super crazy proprietary about it and hide it. I am going to publicly and openly share with you, dude, in the bleachers, the way I do it. And like, you go give it a go yourself, right? The assumption is that somebody's going to go shape their own board.
Well, I fully agree. That has always surprised me how many people actually want to witness that. And I'm thrilled that they do. Because at first I thought it was just backyard shapers want to go witness Chris Christensen and try to glean some insights. And that is happening as well. But I'm surprised at how much of the general public is totally engaged in it.
It's funny how it really truly is. I mean, you know, like you go to Las Vegas and there's mermaids every once in a while swimming in tanks, and there's like whatever kind of visual candy that like sucks you in and makes you stand and stare for a minute. And I don't know that it's just the surfing community, but there's something about watching somebody shape a board that, if you're a surfer at all or related, and I imagine even if you're not, there's something about it that's captivating.
Yeah, it really is for some reason.
Yeah. Well, like I wouldn't stand and watch somebody like build something, right? Like build a birdhouse.
Right. Or how the sausage is made literally, you know, like you wouldn't watch somebody make sausage, but this is a sausage making that for some reason has a poetry.
Is captivating. Yep.
Yeah.
There is a poetry to shaping.
Yeah, there really is. So congrats, Ryan Birch won that shaping competition. He shaped 3 boards over the course of the weekend. It was a tribute to Pat Rawson. And yeah, radical to meet all the fans as always. That's always fun. Big thing happened though Saturday afternoon at the US Open, and inevitably the US Open is often known more for an event other than the surfing itself, and often it's a criminal event. I mean, in the best of times it was Blink 182 or MGMT playing, you know, a concert on the sand, and that overshadows the surfing. But in the worst of times, it ends up being a riot, or in this case, on Saturday at 3:15, an actual shooting that resulted in the death. The victim was Robbie Garcia. I think his middle name was Andrew, Robbie Andrews Garcia, aged 43, was shot after pointing a gun at officers. So officers were called to the scene because somebody was spotted with a gun. Officers show up. It ends up being a confrontation. Garcia aims the gun at the cops. They then put him down. It looked like 1 or 2 shots hit him. So he went down to the ground hard. He dropped his gun, but then once he hit the ground, scrambled kind of to his knees to grab the gun again, at which point it all ends in a hail of gunfire. Multiple officers opening fire. He takes a number of bullets. The sand around him starts dancing up because there's bullets just being sprayed. And Garcia is lifeless. This happened on the south side of the pier in plain view, right below Duke's. I mean, Duke's and the other restaurant that's below Duke's is right there. Ian Cairns posted on Instagram and said that he was at Duke's having a cocktail when he witnessed the whole thing. Chaz and I received a video of it on Sunday morning from a bystander who filmed the thing on their iPhone. What are your thoughts on this, Chaz, in general?
I mean, it's just such a tragedy, right? Like, it's any kind of police shooting. And I suppose each tragedy stacks upon the tragedies before it, where, kind of growing up, the idea of a police shooting wasn't something that really stuck in my mind or heart, right? Did it with you? I mean,
no.
Every once in a while,
it was rare.
Yeah, it was super rare. And now it just feels like they're all the time. And, you see a guy who's, I don't know, the video footage that you and I saw, like there was a towel over whatever his purported gun was, right? Where cops said they did recover a gun. So, benefit of the doubt, I suppose, to them. But he was clearly something, right? Like either wanted to go out that way or mentally disturbed or something. And you would just, about the technology we have and whatnot, like how can we not invent something better than gunning one dude down in broad daylight, right? That's what I always think. Like how, I mean, I get it. I get that, these police officers, they're clearly on the front line. Like their lives are, they have to protect themselves and protect each other. They're also in like full body armor and all this. How can you not just like tase a dude at that point or something?
Well, I fully agree with you in general that there needs to be an intermediary step taken oftentimes when you're dealing with mental illness or something. In this particular instance, the cops did a phenomenal job as far as I'm concerned. This guy presented a real threat to actual civilians. And unfortunately, the police officers are in a super precarious situation where they are going to get ridiculed by everybody and analyzed from every angle and possibly lose their jobs and do jail time if they even slightly misstep. And so this was a situation where that could have resulted in innocent bystanders becoming victims ultimately. And so they did a phenomenal job of protecting civilians. Number one, putting him on the ground, that was like giving him a chance. But once he scrambles for the gun, what else can you do? I
mean, and totally. And I suppose that I am as critical of police on this show, I suppose, as you are. But yeah, like, I don't envy them their jobs at all. Like that is a rough, like to make those decisions in split time and to be thinking about, clearly they're seeing everything, right? They're seeing this guy, they're seeing his state, they're seeing all the people around. It's just, I mean, it's still a dang tragedy, I suppose. And it's just, it really is a bummer.
It's a total bummer. It's a total tragedy. I was sad to see it as well, but all that I could see was everybody in the background, the families who were at the beach, and one errant bullet could have took an innocent bystander. And so he's somebody who showed up at the beach with a gun, huge mistake, pointed the gun at cops, got a bullet or two as a warning to put the gun down and to comply. And so the third mistake is him scrambling to get the gun. I don't really know what else cops could have done at that point.
I mean, the tragedy, I suppose, not that this is what the situation was, but like people who choose to do, suicide by cop. What a big bummer to put that on all the police officers, right? Of like, and again, not that that's what he was doing, but like cops having to take people's lives because people are suicidal is like everything they have to do. It's a rough gig.
It totally is. Whenever I've seen this stuff in the news, I guess like you were saying, when I was growing up, I would see this stuff in the news, and it was always somewhere, not even far away geographically, but like in a impoverished gang, neighborhood. And so I could disassociate myself from it. Like, oh, I guess don't go into that neighborhood, or I guess that's what happens in that neighborhood. I hate to see this happening, not only in our own backyard, but at the beach specifically, or a national park, or what, like a place where people go to find solace and to find reprieve from all of the stuff in life, a place where families go. It just felt like it really infected a safe haven, kind of a refuge for people, not just for me as a surfer, but like for people. That's what people use it for. So that was really pissed me off. But then it made me realize Huntington Beach isn't that refuge. Actually, Huntington Beach, honestly, like we need to stop doing the US Open there. I don't think we need to stop doing the US Open, period, but I don't think we need to do it at Huntington Beach anymore. The waves are totally mediocre. There are waves to surf, which I think is why they do it. There's consistently mediocre surf. But for people who aren't from around here, it's kind of a geographic thing. It's like from the inland and all the surrounding suburbs, everything kind of funnels, the freeways funnel to Huntington Beach, and there's the most parking. So Newport Beach, which is just a mile or 2 or 5 south, from 1 mile to 5 miles south, there's not enough parking. It can't support all of the infrastructure. Laguna Beach only has 2 roads, PCH to get to it, or 1 road from the inland to get to it. So it can't support the infrastructure. Huntington Beach just is this kind of funnel where everything comes. And so I think that's why these sort of things happen. But that's why we also shouldn't be having events there, you know, because
look, bro, they're going to host or trying to host the Olympics.
I saw that article. How'd you feel about that? What are your thoughts?
I mean, if like I'm of 2 minds with Huntington, to be honest. Like it has the history, right? It for sure has completely mediocre waves, but I almost like the roughness of it. No, I don't like obviously people getting gunned down on the sand, no. But there's something about Huntington, even with the riots and all that, that is amusing to me. And so I'm pretty bullish on Huntington Beach. Go Huntington. This should be the face of surfing for the Los Angeles Olympics. Where would you have it? Trestles?
Yeah, absolutely. Trestles.
So remember, it's Huntington is trying to host all of it, right? So
yeah,
skate, BMX, and surf. Where Trestles could host surf. But I mean, is San Clemente going to throw its hat in the ring, you think?
I don't think so. I don't know that they would even want to host it, I suppose. I'm of 2 minds about Huntington as well, because I lived there for 12 years, but I so don't identify with it, you know, and I don't want to be associated with it. And I had a good time there. And I think when I moved there, it was a little bit different than it kind of turned into. But for whatever reason, yeah, it's like the Olympics, I don't think wants to be associated with Huntington, to be honest. I mean, like Huntington's reputation has become a thing now to where you don't really want to be involved.
I mean, again, shooting aside, I kind of love that though. I love that it's sort of 909 dirty, where you got, you know, especially if they're going to have the skate and the BMX there alongside the surf, then full flat brim it, man.
It's
Dickie
hilarious.
Shorts.
That article, the headline of that article was solid.
Throws the flat brim hat into the ring.
That's what it was. Huntington throws its flat brimmed hat into the ring. The other problem is it's so its identity is so synonymous with politics at this point. And this might just be a temporary thing, but
I mean it is. But all the more power for yeah. Well, 1 second.
Yeah.
What? Open the door. Open the door. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like hurt my arm.
How'd you hurt it?
I don't know, but it just really hurts. It feels like almost it's like something. I don't know, but it really hurts.
Did you hurt it swinging on the thing?
No.
How'd you hurt it?
I don't know. It just
Tell me.
started when I was reading Nancy Drew.
Was it asleep?
No.
Did you whack it on something?
No.
Okay, go rest for a few more minutes. Okay. Sorry about that.
The joys of parenting. Hilarious.
Welcome. Coming soon. Oh,
so,
man, both Hemingway and I have the rare luxury right now of being sick.
You're sick too?
Well, she's sick, but I just felt it coming on. But we just both got COVID tests. And to be sick and have it not be COVID feels like total luxury.
Totally.
Just like,
so did you take the PCR test or the rapid?
Rapid.
Okay. And it said negative?
Negative, yeah.
Okay. I figured I'm going to be exposed to COVID at the boardroom show this past weekend. So I quarantined. I'm still quarantining from Lauren. And I took the PCR test on Tuesday, but I haven't gotten my results back yet.
Can't you just take the PCP? I mean, sorry, not the PCP. You could take PCP too. You should be doing that while you're quarantining. But the rapid test, a negative is a negative, right? But with
Oh,
the
I didn't know
rapid,
that.
so I think a negative is a negative. I think with the rapid, and I'm no doctor, but I think a positive may be a negative with the rapid.
Got it. Got it.
But I think
Okay.
if you're positive on PCP, if you take PCP and are positive, then I think it's for sure positive. I'm sorry. If you take PCP and you're negative, it is for sure negative.
Man,
Is
I
the
wish
way
I would have
I
known that
understand
3
it.
days ago.
Yeah, you're sitting
Okay.
waiting.
Well, we have other topics, so I want to move on from that, but we owe a shout out to Griffin Colapinto and Katie Simmers for winning the US Open. When we talk about how crappy US Open is, it's not to say that the surfing is poor. The surfing was actually phenomenal. It's just that the waves are crappy.
I talked to Cocaine Cowboy Matt Biolas at the Boardroom show. Matt Biolas, for those who don't know, is sporting a evolved look, or was at the Boardroom show, with kind of beautifully frosted hair and tinted sunglasses indoors in a 5 o'clock shadow, even somehow more rakish than David Lee's. And anyhows, he mentioned Katie Simmers. I do believe it was Katie Simmers, where he just said like she's basically unbeatable, which made me think, oh, is Katie Simmers, how old is she?
15.
So is she like going to be the future of World Surf League surf? Is she going to supplant Sierra Kerr? I mean, is she like just I hadn't really considered her. I was wanting more information.
She surfs like Dane Reynolds. That's what everybody kept saying during the commentary. And she does. Her style is similar. Fat Aki called in a listener call earlier in the week, and he was saying that what he sees is the momentum generation for the women's side is going to be taking place. So just like in the early 90s, Elkerton and these kind of guys who we all pointed to were immediately vanquished by this huge crop of not just one or two, but a 12 up and coming youngsters. And that is Courtney Conlog or Caroline Marks is going to be the Gary Elkerton, and the Sierra Kerrs, the Katie Simmers, the Aaron Brooks, the Sky Browns, all these young girls who are kind of in the 12 to 15 range and probably even younger are going to come through,
clean the house,
nullify everything. Like if you can't do an air reverse as part of your combination on the wave, then you're just not going to be able to hang with those girls. And it's true. You won't be.
Will Steph Gilmore stick around?
Steph Gilmore is going to play the role of Tom Carroll. I'm sorry, Tom Curran, where it's like everybody still has reverence for Tom Curran. Even if you're doing crazy airs and he's not, you still bow down.
Yeah. Okay. What about Tyler Wright?
Gone
Forever.
Totally vanquished. She will be a distant memory like Damian Hardman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for the headline right there, though.
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
So shout out to them. So one thing that's worth discussing is this is the first of 4 Challenger Series events. So if you win, I mean, really, Katie Simmers could qualify for the CT
this year
based on this one win, and then just showing up for the next 3 events.
She's got Tia Blanco in the way, though.
True, which I think she could take down, to be honest. So kind of an interesting idea that there's so few events to use as the Challenger Series that somebody could just have a fluke. It wasn't a fluke for Katie, but and in dribbly surf as well. Like they could do really well at a crappy venue like Huntington, qualify for the tour, which is going to end up running in G-Land and Sunset. So
can Katie surf G-Land?
She's 15, dude. I doubt it. Who could at 15,
I know, but I haven't seen any of her clips or whatnot. Does she toss herself over the ledge?
I've only seen her surf waist to chest high, beach breaks. So I have no clue. Moving on from that though, Hollister is opening somewhat. It's a soft open. Hollister is the original ranch. It's in Central California. This was reported by Gen C for Beach Grit. On September 24th, the Coastal Commission posted a draft plan for public access. So this is all privately held land. I think it's been subdivided a lot over the years, but it's this pristine Central California coastline right around Santa Barbara that's been sold as private land. Residents have been built on it, but there's no other infrastructure. There's no grocery stores. There's none of that stuff. And it's totally private. So the only way to access that part of the coastline is to boat in, essentially, or to live on one of those properties or have access to it. So this is land that's been protected for a long time that finally 2 years ago, the California legislature passed a law that required public access to the land. The legislation directed state and local land management agencies to develop a plan. The result of their effort would govern that access would have to be implemented by April of 2022. So what happened this last week was that a plan was actually proposed. Eventually, or what they're ultimately going to build is sewer lines, bathrooms, eventually parking lots. So there won't be necessarily hotels or anything like that on this land, but you will at least be able to access it like you are trestles, let's say. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's a real bummer, right? Like, I surfed the ranch, surfed it a couple times, thanks to my brother-in-law. And it's like, the thing is, it's not unlike the other ranch, the fake ranch, surf ranch, where, you either know somebody or you pay out the nose, like some exorbitant rate. Anybody can go surf the ranch if you have a stinking Zodiac or dinghy and you feel like rowing, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you get a little outboard. If you want to do it, there's a full-on boat launch at, I can't remember which pier it is, but where you can drop your dinghy in the water, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's all, so it's like access wasn't a problem. And I love places where there's barrier to entry, I think, right? Like,
yeah.
If you don't care enough to go to get a stinking, and I know, do you know how much Zodiacs are?
No idea.
Crazy expensive for
Really?
inflatables. Yeah, crazy. But
like $10,000, $20,000.
I mean, for a good Zodiac, yeah, like 10 to 20.
Okay.
But you can get like a decent, I mean, Costco, whatever, sells an inflatable. They're crap, but you can get your setup for like $500 or whatever. And if it's not worth it for you to go to make it an adventure, then don't go surf the ranch. Leave it for people who are, like, where the adventure is worth it to them. Like, that's what I say. Like, do not open it up.
I fully agree. And I don't think that surfers were the ones who were pushing for this legislation.
Who
right?
was? Like beachcombers?
Probably beachcombers who are just pissed that they don't have access to the beach.
Like, so get it stinking your Zodiac set up and go do it.
I know. I think it's weird. There's no good answer here. I think it's a great reminder for all of us to enjoy things while we can. Nothing lasts forever. And even, I mean, almost anybody listening, certainly anybody from Southern California, has some real luxuries and resources at their disposal that the vast majority of the rest of the world does not, even if it's not land on the beach. And nearly every human on the planet would actually advocate for free access for all. Like, the beach is a public thing. Everybody should have free access. So nearly every human being on the planet would advocate for that, except those who actually own the house on the beach, or until you or I go to the beach and then we put our towel down in the sand, and then somebody else shows up after us, plops down next to us with a boombox or a rambunctious dog or an e-bike or smoking cigarettes next to us or playing a rowdy game of football. Then you immediately tell them, hey, I was here first, be respectful of my space, And so it's kind of funny, like, as much as we want free access for all, once we have carved out a tiny amount of sand for ourselves, we don't want the free access anymore. We want there to be rules that are implemented for all those people that abide by the way that we do things,
Well, And it seemed to me though that the ranch had best of all worlds of like, I don't know why access means roads and bathrooms, right?
True.
Like
True.
people could boat in there. Like you could go, and I don't know that officially you could go on the sand, but who's going to stop you, right? And so make it that way. Make it, but make it, you can go stinking, anchor. I think it's called a lunch anchor. It's what they call it when on these, like go toss your anchor, of course, go surf, go to the beach and have something to eat if you want, whatever, right? Like no camping and no public facilities. Like pack your trash out of there. Just keep it like it is. Like them paving paradise to put in a parking lot, to quote
Sing
the
it,
great
Joni.
Amy Grant. I'm sorry, who was the second person?
Joni Mitchell and the Counting Crows.
Yeah.
Amy Grant. Way different era. I fully agree. I hate to see this happen. I hate to see it.
It's a real bummer.
Even though access isn't afforded to me, like I surfed it. A listener has a boat and invited me, and I surfed it pre-COVID. So whenever that was, a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I'm okay with not having access to it. You know what I mean? Because it's so pristine that it's like, we don't have enough of those things anymore that are pristine. So let's leave it as is.
No, and if you went and had like a profound experience at the ranch, that I got to do this all the time, you could get your set up and do it all the time. If like
exactly.
It would just the barrier to end. There's a barrier to entry. I love barriers to entry. Like
me too.
It's what's great about surfing too, right? Like that's why I love localism. That's why I love all of it. Is like throw barriers to entry up everywhere. Like make me want something bad enough that I'm going to climb over the barrier.
Agreed. You should have to work for stuff. And this, by the way, is exactly why we were talking about Kamale Alexander last week, being angry at e-foiler billionaires on Kauai. That's just one more domino to fall. Like those people advertising the beauty. Well, eventually all these other people who aren't actually surfers, they might just be beachcombers. They go, hey, I want part of that beauty. Like, why don't I have access to that beauty? Then legislation happens and that domino. The reality is for the homeowners on the ranch, it is not a good look to try to defend that land. You look entitled, and they've been enjoying this luxury for decades and decades. And so other people will be like, hey, you've had it forever. You can't just share a little bit with us. And it's a terrible look when you're entitled and you have that luxury to defend it. And so,
it's the stinking Malibu guy who blocks the beach path access,
exactly.
Or a beach access path and gets all, that guy never looks good, no matter how in the right he is, even if he's like, man, there's like hordes coming down here, just dumping trash all day long, and I have to clean it up. And so screw it. No, you're still a jerk.
So that's why Kamala is saying, hey, let's not let this domino fall, because once it gets to the legislation domino, we don't even have a say anymore. So
it's over.
Zip it. Don't talk about the ranch anymore,
Shush.
Do you want to hear about Ryan Miller and Morgan Mawson becoming millionaires?
Sure do.
Did you see this article on Stab?
I saw, I think, the Instagram of Morgan Mawson standing with a cigarette, looking like a cool guy on the beach. Is that the one?
That's the one. Remember when he used to be a little thick?
He's still thick.
No, he's leaned out, dude.
He's skinny fat.
No, he's leaned out. So this was an article on Stab. I think it was maybe Stab Premium. Surf photographers, Ryan Miller and Morgan Mawson, both penned articles about how I made my first million, designed to decode the blueprint to financial literacy for us thousandaires. Do you have any idea how they did it, Chaz?
They invested in stock.
Not exactly, actually. Ryan Miller did. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this or share it is I found these articles to be really helpful, insightful, and inspirational even.
Great.
Like, it's not necessarily financial advice that they're giving. They're certainly not giving stock tips or anything like that. It's more about a shift in perspective that they both had at some point when they started earning money. That was, I could spend this money like I've spent money in the last few years, or I can spend it so that it works for me, essentially is what it is. Morgan's more heavily invested in real estate. I think he's like 64% real estate. Ryan certainly is a stock guy. I think he's like 60% in stocks. But the other part of the story that I really appreciated is they both went through extreme hardship at the beginning.
See, I read one comment on there about Morgan Mawson's hardship at 19 was just like absolutely ridiculous to call that hardship. I mean, my goodness, if there was anyone should have just punched him right in the mouth for saying, man, I was broke at 19. Who wasn't?
I like Morgan and I'm a fan. Go.
I mean, Morgan Mawson?
Yeah.
He's a fraud. He's a fake. He is he's not a good dude. He doesn't stick to his word. A man who doesn't stick to his word, what are they worth? He's
millions, multi-millions of dollars, apparently.
Apparently, he's all fluff and there's no substance. He's fake.
I feel like there's a personal vendetta here that needs to get sussed out.
Oh, you don't know about Morgan Mawson? I've talked about it before.
I don't really remember if you did.
Yeah. When we first started Beach Grit all these years ago, guess who the partnership team was supposed to be? Me, Derek, and Morgan Mawson.
It was advertised. I remember that.
Yeah. Morgan was supposed to provide images and access. Because he totally faked and lied about the access he had to, I think he had Dane, which is fine. We all got Dane, but
I remember he was traveling with Kelly and
I think he was really claiming hard on Kelly and all this kind of stuff. So he was like, hey, great. He was going to be, Beach Grit was not supposed to just be riding. It was supposed to also be heavy film and, back pictures mattered more than they do now. And so, yeah, Morgan was supposed to provide that. And we go to launch and Morgan, we just launched and Morgan is just crickets. And then crickets for weeks, too afraid to say anything. I called him and screamed at him at some point. But he was like, oh, I didn't know the direction you guys were going. You guys are rude and it's not cool. But which was way after the fact. So I have zero respect for Morgan Mawson.
So I was going to suggest that even if he didn't say it, that's exactly what it was he didn't want to be associated with the tone of Beach Grit, right?
That's what he claimed way, way, way after the fact. But the day we started, we had no tone. It was we had what, Derek and I had dreamed up and then what Morgan had bought into. And then Morgan going dark out of the gate, instead of saying, he could have said right out of the gate, hey, day one, I don't like this tone and I respectfully am going to remove myself, all fine and good. But he cowered and hid and didn't respond to calls or emails, didn't respond to anything until I finally got him and gave him a piece of my mind.
He's done okay since then.
I think it's all fraud. I don't believe him. I mean, I fully believe him. Not that he's making fraud. I think that Morgan is a great self-promoter. I wouldn't put any stock into what he's actually saying.
On the other hand, Ryan Miller said that he'll join us on the podcast.
Great. We can talk to Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller, I believe and trust.
He said he might come back. He was out here last week and he said he might come back this weekend to watch Eddie Vedder play for the third time or whatever at the Ohana Fest.
The Ohana Fest.
Yeah, exactly. And so if he comes, I was like, dude, we finally have to do a podcast. And he said he'll join us on the Grit as a co-host. So
fantastic.
We'll see if that happens. Well, hey, listeners who do want to read that article, my takeaways from it were to buy assets, not liabilities. Whether you have $10,000 to invest or $500 to invest, you can either spend it in a way that it goes away or spend it in a way that it retains its value and even gains value. Key things are pay attention, take care of your pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves, kind of a thing. And those two guys had a lot of insights. So I'm a fan.
Also, don't listen to Morgan Mawson. If you're going to listen to one of those guys and read the article, listen to Ryan Miller.
I got 2 listener line calls that are actually both from the same person. But among all of them, these I found to be the most relevant and interesting, both from the same person. Are you ready?
Ready.
Chaz, David, Animal Chan, I just have a quick question related to my most recent session at T Street. There was a guy, super broed out, super high volume, just talking like a total loser. Just, oh, bro, yeah. I was just wondering, it's kind of a threefold question, like, is someone's volume and broness inversely correlated to their localism, how well they surf, and their impact on your session? Because I had to get out of the water. I couldn't listen to the guy go, oh, bro, yo, I got a jet ski like for rod holders, and I just like roll out there catching yellow paddles by Steel Rock. Like, and then the dude couldn't get to his feet. I wanted to like literally scream instead I got out of the water. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts on the inverse correlation are. Later, boys.
Take it away.
Rough thing here is that there's some folk down here who are full bro bra who rip, right? Like who are the dudes and they're just like bro bra, high volume bro bra, and they rip. And so I would say, I mean, my inclination would be, yeah, like there's a correlation between the louder you talk, the more you suck, right? Except I feel that it's super beach specific. I can feel like in Santa Cruz, I bet out at the lane, I don't surf the lane, but I bet out there's like a full bro bra guy who rips.
Does ripping trump all though?
Well, I mean, I think what he's saying is there's a correlation, inverse correlation between the louder you talk and the more bro broad you are and the more you suck. Where I say, maybe at T Street, yes, there is that thing. I think this is a very specific break to break thing because there's always the loud bro guy who also is fully loc and shreds.
Right. I'm wondering if it's more of there's a correlation between intelligence and that guy.
Could be.
I mean, I hate to call somebody out like that, but it's like, I don't know, there's a real, I don't know, the dumber you are, the louder you are kind of a thing.
Except for I'm really going to also, there's so many factors here.
There really are.
Thank you. Because also surfier plays a role here of the dude may just be straight up deaf, right? He may have the full calibro inflection, would speak at a normal volume if he could, can't because he's deaf. So he thinks he is, but he's just out there screaming.
It's a real interesting one. There's a lot of complexity here.
But I'm gonna say it's very specific break to break, where
I don't disagree with that.
Like there's no correlation. There might be a correlation at your break, but we should have somebody map out. Like this could be a good, if there's any anthropology PhD students out there who need to get your dissertation done, I feel this is a fine one, is the inverse correlation between volume, bro bra, and shredding along California's coast.
I had this guy in the lineup maybe 2 months ago, just chatting me up, chatting everybody up, everybody he paddled by, just like shouting out. And he was like complimenting people's waves and everything. And I felt like the animal chin, where my initial instinct was to paddle the other direction, hope to God he doesn't talk to me. And he ultimately did. And I found that.
You felt bad.
No. Yeah. I felt bad for judging him. I felt bad for disliking him because once he talked to me, I couldn't be a dick to him.
Sure.
I couldn't act the way to him that I was acting in my head. So I then was like, oh yeah, it's actually, I think the tide's coming in or whatever. And I made small talk and he was happy. And then he's hooting me into waves. And all of a sudden I almost like elevated my spirit in my session.
Yep. I mean, that is the inertia way right there.
It really is.
That's what they're hoping for. That's what they're hoping. A mass wake up event where all the grouches just realize, hey, can't we just have some fun?
Yeah.
Can we be nice?
Exactly. And the funny thing was he could actually surf okay. Like he was doing turns and hitting the lip, but his style was horrendous. Like he was just gyrating and shaking everywhere. And I was like, man, I don't know who originally said it, but I've always felt like your personality really shows on the wave. And it was so true with that guy, like his personality was exemplified through him pumping.
Have you ever tried or thought about being, for one paddle out, just for an experiment, the friendly guy, paddling out and saying, "Hey bro, how's it out here? Looks sick, looks fun. Sick one, you got a sick one," and just like play the role just to see how it feels. What if you felt so good and then had the session of your life?
I probably
the
would.
monster session of your young life.
I probably would, because it's only been going downhill with the attitude I currently implement. So
Sure.
I probably do need a radical change.
Sure. 180.
Yeah.
You and I could be surf key for attitude.
Wave key.
Wave key.
We'll do a 360. I love when people call it a 360.
Yeah, we'll do a 360 on our attitude and be.
I mean, he was so heavily into drugs. He got in rehab and he just did a complete 360. It's wonderful to see.
Really good. Real good.
Hold on. All right. One more from the animal chin. Let me see. You'll enjoy this one, Chaz.
Chaz, David Lee, it's Animal Chin calling again from San Clemente. So you guys might remember when I wrote that Beach Grid article about venture capital and the Surfer magazine, that I'm in that industry. And as this Theranos case progresses, and I'm watching, the former CEO go down for fraud and defrauding shareholders, and I listen to her talk, she sounds a lot like Eric Logan, and their business model kind of similarly required a lot of pivots, and they kind of the same way had trouble finding the product market fit. So I'm wondering, do you guys think Elo's just like defrauding the Ziff? That makes me like him if he is, but I don't know if that's actually the play, or is he a megalomaniac who thinks he could actually, fake it till he makes it? Curious to hear what your thoughts are, fellas. Have a good one. Later.
So Theranos is the analogy. For listeners who aren't up to date on that case, Theranos was Elizabeth Holmes's blood testing company. It was a tech company that she got very rich by taking hundreds of millions of dollars of venture capital, lying about what their tech was actually capable of, lying about having contracts with the government and other companies, lying about revenues, all to collect that capital, seemingly hoping that the technology would actually catch up and then they'd actually be able to deliver on the promises, despite what all of her own experts within the company were telling her that was impossible. So what are your thoughts on that analogy of taking people's money? Is Elo and his role with the WSL analogous to Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos?
I wish, like the Animal Chin, I do wish that would make Elo more interesting. I honestly think that this is the way Elo speaks. Like Elo has come up in Hollywood sort of empty speak, right? Like he speaks in platitudes and in projections and in whatever. And I think he's had some successes in his life, at the Oprah. Like I don't know how responsible he was for turning that around. I think he gets credited, right, with sort of turning the Oprah network around. But I think he just used language, this full-on empty corpo mixed with Hollywood speak, and that's just what he does. I think that every ounce of what he has done at the World Surf League in terms of, like the Animal Chin mentioned, the multiple pivots, right? Like where, okay, we're going to be a media company. Oops, well, we can't do that because we actually suck at media. So we have to go back to being a contest company, but we're going to try this and this and this and this. Like the Ultimate Surfer was an abject failure, right? And I don't know that it was they may have had some money for it. It certainly won't get renewed. It had awful ratings. I think they were lucky that it even finished. Maybe the next one, the Surf to Succeed, or what'll it be called? Is that what it's called?
No, I forget the name. I don't know if there's even a name yet.
The F1 based show, maybe that could be a success. And I suppose that if you're a Logan and you have enough leash, you're just hoping that something hits, right? Like he's been allowed to throw how many things into the fire, and all he needs is one of those firecrackers to pop, and he'll be seen as, the visionary who saved pro surfing. But so far, none of them have popped.
Well, finals day worked, it happened to work because of the circumstance. So I think they could chalk that up as a W.
Sure.
I think the huge difference here with this analogy is that Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes were manufacturing fake bank statements and providing those to investors to take their money. So they're actually lying. That's where the definition of fraud comes in. So I have no idea of the inner workings of the WSL, but there's no evidence to state that there's any actual fraud going on.
I mean, unless, like, I think that Chin was suggesting, though, that Elo is defrauding Ziff, right? Like, so Elo goes to Ziff's house for their quarterly meetings and says, you won't believe the viewership we got for Ultimate Surf was through the roof, like where all of this stuff is just baked, right? And so he is defrauding Ziff, not defrauding the public.
I get that, but even then it couldn't be called fraud unless he was actually lying and manufacturing those fake numbers and using those to then get more credit or whatever investment. I also don't think that he's a megalomaniac on the level of Elizabeth Holmes. You know what I mean? Like,
he'd be a lot more interesting if he was.
Well, that's true. But she was just clearly like cult leader kind of megalomania. For me, I think the huge turning point in that whole thing, the Theranos thing, was that very early on, she got super credible icons to sit on that board and even to invest lots of money early. They supported Theranos, they vouched for it. So it made all future investors feel comfortable and probably even neglect some of the due diligence they would have done with any other tech startup. And then that all that kind of developed into a consensual hallucination. You know, it's like, and by the way, a lot of tech companies build the plane as they're flying it, you know? And so the tech often isn't to where they think it can get. They just know we need hundreds of millions of dollars to actually build it out and get there. It becomes fraud when you're lying about the actual contracts you have and all that sort of stuff. But I think that Elizabeth Holmes believed that she could get there to a certain degree. And so the turning point again was these other icons who also believed in her, who then, you know, like the analogy for the WSL is they hire Pat O'Connell and we all sit back and go, oh, well, they brought some salt into the building. So I guess we should see how this shakes out. Well, a year and a half later, when Pat O'Connell leaves, that's another indicator to us that like, well, these people that we needed to vouch for the WSL are no longer vouching for the WSL. So that's important for us to take note of. Do we continue, you and I, as, you know, quote unquote investors are investing into our time and our resource into following this thing? Do we still have faith that this thing is going to happen if some of the key icons with salt that we would hope to vouch for them don't vouch for them?
Finals day.
What about it?
Wild success. He's back.
So to me, this is the problem with Kelly Slater. Like, this is where Kelly is one of those early vouchers where his association with the Ultimate Surfer validated the Ultimate Surfer, but we all sat and watched it and said, oh no, this actually sullied Kelly's good name. So now Kelly's taken down a notch. Next time he asks us to watch something that he does.
Kelly should have gone all in on the Ultimate Surfer, I think. Like, it was an awful idea. It was going to be awful no matter what. Like, there was no win there. But Kelly's full pulled punch of only appearing on the video screen until the final episode was like, come on, like, you clearly weren't you thought this was a dog too. Like, if you thought this was a dog enough to not show up, and actually he should have been in the pool, like giving tips and training them, and like there might have been something compelling there, right? Like, but Kelly's full on, this sucks. Then you knew it was going to suck from the get. Why'd you? I mean, maybe the money was good enough, but yeah.
Well, I felt that way after the fact. He never once posted anything on Instagram.
No,
he posted in his stories, I think, on the final episode, congratulating the winners, but that's it. He never hyped the show in advance. He never did a main post advertising it. So it's like he then kept it at arm's length.
Yes. He was the first, advertisements were all him and his outer known stuff getting barreled. That was the first whole advertising push. So it seems pretty not cool of Kelly to like take the whole personal promotion thing and then totally say, oh, but this sucks.
Right.
Like, not very cool, Kelly.
Yeah. All right, Chaz, should we go to commercial break and then come back with Barrel or Not?
Let's do it.
Chaz, welcome back.
So good to be here.
Did you watch Val?
Not yet.
Perfect.
Tonight.
moving on. Yeah, right. All right. Barrel or nah? Watching the video of Ronnie Garcia get shot and killed in HB.
Oh man, it is so. This one's a real mixed one because I think it's important to actually witness horror at some level, like to not be spineless enough to say, "Ooh, I just can't watch that." Like, not to watch it like Faces of Death, right? Like glorifying and watching somebody die. But I think staring something ugly in the face and feeling it, I think is important. So I'm going to say barrel.
So I didn't think twice when we were sent the video. I didn't think twice about opening it and watching it. I watched it immediately. And so then I shared it with somebody who was pretty horrified by it. And then I was texting with another buddy and I said, do you want me to send you the video? And he goes, no, thanks, I'm good. And I was like, whoa, wait, what? And then I noticed a bunch of people actually declined to even view it. They heard what it was, they declined to view it. And I thought that was a really interesting take. My inclination is to stare it in the face. Like, I don't know why. Maybe that says something disturbing about me. And I don't have like morbid, like I don't have a high tolerance for any of that. Like I don't want to watch graphic things. I know, seek it out on the internet. But when I knew that thing happened and it was at the beach and it was relevant to our lives, I needed to see it play out for some reason.
I completely understand the person who doesn't want to watch that. Definitely don't. I do think though, there's something about feeling that real, for me, something about feeling that real gut-wrenching discomfort that I want, not because I want to feel uncomfortable, but like, yeah, it feels more honest to me to feel that severe discomfort rather than to be able to pass it off. For me, as like, oh, I know something bad happened and that's unfortunate, but not to feel the depth of it, which is maybe why I, have the feelings I do about it, of just the real, I feel it as a severe tragedy, and watching it is what makes me think that, as much as hearing about it.
It was pretty hard to watch.
It's hard to watch, very hard to watch. I mean, you see somebody who's clearly disturbed, right? Like, whether I can't weigh in on anything at all, but he was clearly a disturbed person.
I mean, I Googled this morning, I spent a bit of time trying to find any trace of social media presence of his, find out anything about his background, and I couldn't find anything. Yeah. So yeah, you would think that somebody would be disturbed to do something like that. But I envy my friends who declined to watch the video. I thought to myself, wow, they're kind of more enlightened than I am, and there's probably something wrong that I would even want to witness it. But I don't know. I do want to witness it for some reason.
I mean, it is haunting in the worst way possible, but I still think, and stuff like that is important. Not to desensitize oneself, but to almost sensitize. Like, I feel more sensitive to it after having seen it than I did just having read about it.
Agreed. There's something, it's like if he lost his life, it's almost like an honor to him. Like, God, he went through this insane thing. I at least need to humanize it. Like, witnessing it humanizes it to me, rather than just thinking, like I said, when we were younger, just disassociating as somebody else who lives somewhere else, Yeah. Okay, so you're going barrel on watching morbid things, macabre things.
Barrel, if like purely, not just for the sake of it, for the keeping sensitive about the thing.
Yeah, good. So don't go out and support Faces of Death and buy it and give them your money, but yeah, something like this. Okay, barrel or non, number 2, fighting a flight attendant.
So no barrel. Like, flight attendants and nurses and a few other, a handful of others in the COVID era have had the worst time ever, right? Like,
it's crazy.
Give them a break. Like, of anybody you're going to give a break, give a flight attendant a break, for pity's sake. Like, I cannot imagine the stresses and the hardship that the past couple of years has put on them, right? I mean, they had no jobs for a chunk of time, and now they're back with like dealing with the craziest people on earth. Like, put a damn mask on if you're going to fly. Like, just don't believe in masks all day long and don't want to wear them all day long. Then don't fly. Like, once you get on the plane, just follow the rules for the flight attendant's sake. That poor flight attendant doesn't want to be doing that.
I cannot believe the people that we're seeing do this nowadays. I see a new video every week of a flight attendant getting punched out. And it's like, I hope these people get banned for life from flying. I mean, not just from that airline, from all airlines for life. This is the dregs of humanity that is engaging in this.
I mean, honestly, take a deep breath. And like, I think it's a problem of our society and maybe a problem of all societies, but of just this super self-centered thing. Like, I'm feeling mad or I'm being put out. And so, I'm going to lash out at the authority, whatever. Like, in this moment in time, take one breath and don't lash out at a flight attendant.
The flight attendant who clearly is just implementing a corporate policy, it's like the flight attendant isn't personally attacking you. They're implementing a policy. And so to think that you're going to institute any amount of change by attacking that person is insane.
It's not cool. And give flight attendants a grace too to have a bad day. Maybe they're the flight attendant is being a proper jerk. Well, they've kind of earned the right to be a proper jerk for a minute.
It's a tough gig.
Yeah. Flight attendants barrel.
All right. Fighting flight attendants, no barrel.
No barrel.
Okay. Coming off of last week's children cursing, barrel or nah, old people cursing.
Oh.
This is a trope of every Adam Sandler movie that's ever been made.
I'm going to go no barrel.
Wow.
I'm going to say that old people should clean up their acts. Their act should be clean by then. I'll say for the mid-30s Riverside guy, curse away. For the kid, no. And for the old person, no. Be dignified. Swearing's not dignified language.
I'm going barrel. I think it's pure comedy no matter what. And by the way, I think for a lot of old people, they're done being dignified. Like, they've lived their whole life by the rules. It's their one opportunity just to be like, forget it. I don't give a crap about anything or anybody. I can't hurt anybody. I'm too feeble. The last thing I can do is just speak my mind freely. But
it seems like such a cop-out. Go do that when you're 35. Go like rebel and be naughty when you're 35. Button it up by the time you're 70. Live right.
Every single Adam Sandler movie where there's an old lady and she drops an F-bomb, I laugh every time.
It was every time. Would you laugh today, though? That was funny.
Every single time. Every single time. Undignified to wear shorts, very dignified for an old person to cuss. As long as they're not wearing shorts. Oh, can you imagine an old man in shorts? Not a good look.
Of course not. If you can't wear something into your elderly age, don't wear it now.
Exactly. All right, Chaz. Well, hey, this has been a fantastic show. We didn't mention at the top, but we're on Zoom again because I had a doctor's appointment. We don't intend to stay on Zoom. Nope. Actually, I talked to Britt Merrick yesterday, called me to say he's extending his elk hunting trip. And so he's going to push back his appearance on this show until mid-October.
Okay. Well, as long as we get him.
And that will be in person.
Perfect.
All right. So hopefully next week we'll see each other at Album in person. But until then, Chaz.
Yep, barrel.
All right. Good show.